أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم آت نفسي تقواها وزكيها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you very much for coming. We are continuing our discussion on a very interesting topic, which is divine unity and divine oneness. I used to think they mean the same thing, but I'm learning with you how that they have different meanings, and I'm still trying to understand what they mean. We're studying the 16th word from the book The Words on page 209. And let me remind us all of the verse. I'd like to remember it myself. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, indeed, his command when he wills a thing is be, and it is. So glory be unto him, in whose hand is the dominion of all things, and to him will you all be brought back. For me, I like how the author puts this verse here and chooses to reflect on it, because it's a verse that gives me this feeling that everything is continually under his will, from how it starts, how it's happening, and how it's being brought back to him. So far, we've gone through some part of the first ray. And today we will continue from here. So just as a reminder, we spoke about an analogy of the sun. The sun is like a single individual, but because of transparent objects, the sun is reflected through images, hence making it universal. Meanwhile, the sun's heat, light, and colors embrace all the transparent beings, and therefore these things reflect back these qualities. And the author was starting to explain, well, the sun analogy. What's the three levels of reflection? What are the three levels of reflections that we see from this thing or this being? So the first level we spoke about last time was the basic, or like the physical object. In this reflection, the author gave the example of, okay, imagine you enter a room. This room is full of mirrors. All the mirrors reflect you, but there's only one you, but all the mirrors reflect you. So all these reflections are really dead. There's only one, only living one, and all the others are dead. So they actually don't have any of the characteristics of you. And then the second level of reflection is the physical luminous objects. in this reflection, it's an object, but it does have some of the characteristics and can be considered as living, or is considered as living, but it's not exactly the object that's being reflected. So I'm reading here, it's saying this reflection is not the same as the thing reflected, but neither is it other than it. So just like, I thought of it of like, okay, it's reflecting more than just the physical aspect, but it's not reflecting the essence or the core of the object. I'm just reviewing all of this because today we're starting to talk about the third stage of reflection, which is the reflection of luminous spirits. I will start reading. If you have any questions, reflections, if it's not clear to you what we're about to read, let me know. And if you find me mispronouncing a word, please go ahead and correct me while I'm reading it. All right, so I'm reading the third. This is the reflection of luminous spirits. Okay, so now here's a new word, luminous spirits, because the first and the second stage were just objects, but here it's spirits. This reflection is both living and the same as the spirit. But since it appears in relation to the capacity of the mirrors, it does not hold completely the spirit's essence and nature. Okay, another new thing here. The reflection is dependent on the capacity of the mirrors. Yet, at the same time, it does not hold completely the spirit's essence and nature. For example, at the moment the angel Gabriel, peace be upon him, is in the presence of the prophet in the form of, I don't know the word, but I'll just pronounce it as is, Dihya. He is prostrating with his magnificent wings in the divine presence before the sublime throne. And at the same moment, he is present in innumerable places and is relaying the divine commands. One task is not an obstacle to another. Thus, it is through this mystery that Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, whose essence is light in nature, luminous in this world, hears at the same time all the benedictions recited for him by all his community. And at the resurrection will meet with all the purified at the same time. One will not be an obstacle to another. In fact, some of the saints who have acquired a high degree of luminosity and are called substitutes, Abdel, I'm guessing, have been observed in many places at the same time. And the same person has performed numerous different acts at the same time. Honestly, when I read this paragraph, I had no idea what the author is talking about. So I went on reading to understand. But if someone here wants to reflect or share their understanding, please do. Like, I don't even know where in this paragraph would we stop and like discuss. So if anybody has an idea, please jump in. If not, I can continue. Okay. Indeed, just as things like glass and water, okay, now we're talking about glass and water, I can understand, act as mirrors to physical objects, so the air and ether and certain beings of the world of similitudes are like mirrors to spirit beings. They become like means of transport and conveyance of the speed of lightning and imagination. The spirit beings travel in those pure mirrors and subtle dwellings with speed of imagination. They enter thousands of places at the same time. Despite being restricted particulars, through the mystery of luminosity, impotent and subjugated creatures like the sun and semi-luminous beings, restricted by matter, like spirit beings, may be present in numerous places while being in one place, thus becoming like absolute universals, and with a limited power of choice, being able to perform many matters simultaneously. Okay. Let's try to understand the analogy of, or like the example of glass and water act as mirrors to physical objects. What do you understand from that first line? I mean, I'm thinking that maybe because glass can reflect other physical objects, and water as well can reflect other physical objects other than itself. So if we take this and then we ask ourselves, well, then what is the second line saying? Certain beings of the world of similitudes are like mirrors to spirit beings. I'm not sure what the world of similitudes mean. But if the analogy is, there are things that are like mirrors to spirit beings, just like glass and water, that much I can understand. That's it for me, if anybody wants to add anything. Or ask. So this is clear to everybody? Can I get a confirmation? Does the glass and water act as mirrors to physical objects? Is that clear? Logical? Makes sense? Yes? Okay. Okay, cool. Good. Yeah, go ahead, Brother Ed. Brother Adli, go ahead if you'd like to share.
Sorry, my
Okay.
muted. Aruna said yes, so it is clear. She must have got something. It is a very difficult subject, actually, to understand with our minds now. But at the same time, Aruna may try to share what she understood. I really wonder what other friends understood it, because I can't claim that I understood really. One aspect I understand only, not everything. So I don't know, would you like to make a comment? Is the atmosphere, or you are available now? I think we discussed about it, that we are not talking about physical presence at all, because we cannot imagine, because the main subject is how one absolute being can be doing infinite numbers of actions, which is the creation out there. And we all know that the nature, we keep repeating this because it is the most important of understanding the nature of this universe. It is changing, not only created, but it is changing, created in a changing way, ever-changing way, with no stop. Sorry? Constantly, yeah. So we understand that we cannot really imagine his presence not here in the universe, but in which way we cannot imagine. He has nothing to do with it. No, he has, the creator must have everything to do with the creation. I'm trying to understand together with a friend here. So, because if he didn't want, the things cannot exist by themselves. That's so obvious. No one can say, really basing his argument on evidence that universe can stay on its own. It's continuously changing. Who's changing it? The matter cannot decide to change itself because it has no free will. We know this. So he must, how are we going to understand the relationship between the universe and its creator? It is not very difficult to understand if we take into account that we have to understand it in terms of reflection, because action of the creator is not taking, we know that there is no physical interference in the existence of the universe, as if remotely created everything. This is described in the Quran as reflection. Tajalli is the Quranic word. This is important to know. This word is the Quranic word. So it is thus reflection in the form of reflection. Now, we can, it makes it very easy to understand now. Not to the extent that we studied on the third example, because I found it hard to explain. But we should remember that we are talking about reflection. Now, there are different kinds of reflections that we have been studying. Today, we concentrate on the third types of, which is the reflection of the spirits. Before the bright objects and physical objects, bright objects, and the sun-like reflection, light reflection type. Now today we are saying, we are trying to understand reflection of the spirit. Before going into this, I think the first matter that we have to keep in mind is very important, which is, yeah, we have to accept that we cannot explain the existence of this universe in terms of God put it in motion. It means automatically it renews itself, automatically it develops itself, automatically it changes itself. At first, it may seem to be the case because of our familiarity. But if we pay attention to the nature of change in the universe, it is a perfectly arranged change, and this change is taking place within an order. Now, this order has no reason to be explained in terms of the capacity of the matter, because capacity of the matter itself you cannot really prove any sign that it has some sort of qualities within itself. Definitely it is temporarily, I'm using this word, remotely changed, not within its capacity. Remotely, which means not physical interaction, but we know that in our daily experiences, even we don't have apparent physical relationship, but we have some sort of rays or how do you say, remote control, for example, works, I don't know electronically how it works, but doesn't seem to be not physical, but at the end of the day, we know that if there was no power, electric power or a battery power, the remote control in my hand doesn't operate. When the remote control starts operating, I am commanding it, not the machine itself. Although if someone doesn't see me that I'm using the remote control, it may say that automatically it is happening. But I know that there is a conscious being operating on it. Although we cannot explain the relationship between the absolute being and what it creates, here, as a remote control, there is an electric power going on. Oh, because even the example of the sun and the sunlight and reflecting on the bright surfaces, the sunlight is reflecting on the bright surfaces, still they are in the created world, in this world, and we are observing it in terms of the order of this universe. That is just an example, no more than example, just demonstrating the difference between reflection of the sunlight, and reflection of the physical objects. This example to be understood only in terms of the nature of the reflections of two created beings, which are the parts of this universe. But as far as the main subject of our concern here is concerned, the absolute being's reflection, it doesn't look like the reflection of physical objects at all, shouldn't be, because physical objects are within the universe. It never looks like the sunlight reflection. No, because sun and sunlight are physical entities of the parts of physical entities of this universe again. We cannot really 100% apply these examples to the relationship between the creator and the universe. But what we can understand by using the word reflection as an example, we cannot say that God's names are, or the qualities are reflecting in it. For a example of the picture or the piece of art, whatever it is, or the book example, as the created being, which is not absolute being, the artist and the author, depending on which example we use, reflected his thoughts on the book or on the piece of the art, his capacity at once, and that's it. We can benefit from this example of my thought is reflecting in the writings of my book, and it happened only once. Can you imagine that if I was able to be an absolute being, so my reflection cannot be limited to one event, one reflection, my thought. I can reflect it infinitely at the same time. Oh, I'm an absolute being. That is why we cannot discuss this subject if we don't bear in mind 2 points. One is, we are talking about the reflection of the absolute being. What was the second one? The nature of his reflection cannot be exactly likened to my reflection of the thought, my thought, while I'm writing, or the capacity of the artist while he is manifesting his power of art or artistry on the piece of the art. Because still they are no more than 2 created elements. Artist is a created being, author is the created being, book and the piece of art are created beings. So we have to bear in mind this. Still, they are not the perfect examples of the manifestations of the absolute being as it is manifested, his qualities in this universe. But these are the only means that we can understand. Now, the author is consciously, deliberately, it is obvious, started from the levels of or categories of reflections, from the physical reflections of the physical objects in the mirror, and the sunlight is reflecting on the bright surfaces or clear surfaces. That is, now we came here, a reflection of the spirits. For example, my mom, which I never forget, always she's in my mind, although she passed away, rahimahullah, maybe 20 years ago, no, more than 20 years ago. Still, I have a communication with her. How? Through the capacity of my imagination, my memory. But these are created beings. My mom is a created being. I am a created being, but I have a relationship with her. I say, please Allah forgive my mom. Please Allah, let us meet again in your how do you say, paradise, as a result of your grace, your mercy, compassion, etc. Look, I'm communicating, speaking to God but bearing in mind my mind. How can I communicate with her? She's not here. But I do. No one can claim, no one can deny this. So as far as the, not for, I don't think it is very problematic, but some people say, when you make salawat, the Prophet said, whoever prays for me, which is known in Muslim culture as praying for, making salawat for the spirit of the Prophet, spirit, not the body, spirit of the Prophet. And he comes to my mind. For example, usually in my practical life, everybody has his own personal, private life. But my experience is this. I'm sure you have some sort of experience as well. If I see something that attracted my attention in creation, which is mentioned, actually, it is interesting. When we pray, when Muslims pray, when they sit the tahiyyah, and this at the end of the prayer, or the 2 rakah, so 2 units of the prayer, giving a break for tahiyyah, we say, At-tahiyyatu lillah, al-mubarakatu, as-salawatu, at-tayyibatu lillah. What does it mean? All these living beings that the best example demonstrating meaningfulness in their existence. And all the mubarakat, which seeds, grains, seems to be nothing in the matter, but when they are put in the certain places, they grow. Barakah, blessings come. Out of one small seed, let's take the interesting example of the seed of fig seed. You put that, huge trees coming out of it. It is written there in the form of some sort of planning, demonstrating that it is not an accidental thing, it's already planned. That's why they are deciphering the DNA and how it is planned in the physical world. So this demonstrates that the Creator is demonstrating or showing us, look, it is already planned. I know what I'm going to do. If you just put a grain or a seed in a certain place, because this universe works only on certain rules, which is we call it order of the universe, the way it is created. If I obey and put the seed rather than eating it, put the seed in the what the order of the universe requires, it grows into a tree. And thousands, hundreds of thousands of figs are created out of it. Perfect. We understand that there are, and also animal beings also, they have their cells, men, women, the female, male, and out of this, very minute, you cannot see it, cell, a human being comes out. If the conditions are apply or complying, appropriate, the acting appropriate to the requirements of the order. This is barakah. It is something amazing going on here. Miraculous, impossible to understand. I wouldn't say miracles, I would say magical. Yeah? Out of a very small, a human being, perfect with his bodily and feelings side. Oh, it is barakah. How can I explain it? If there was no message I received from the Prophet or through the Prophet, he said, it is from God. Fine. What do you say? I mean, even you say, or from somewhere else, God. Okay. What are you saying? He says, This is an act of an absolute being. It necessitates for any human being that we have to accept the source of this action must be an absolute being, demonstrating everything, all his qualities, even they are created before they are given existence. He says, I know what I am doing. After they appear in the existence, and there's seed again in it. He says, don't worry, use it. I have, as the Quran says, my treasure is endless. I can give you another one. Eat it. So while we are eating one fig, maybe hundreds, I think 100 at least, seeds we are eating. We don't bother that, oh, there will be no fig anymore. No, the next season, again, it is going to be created. This is barakah, blessing, demonstrated. How can I explain it if I had not received the message from the prophet? And it becomes so meaningful for me. The existence really gains its meaning for me. I understand through the message of the prophet. Then while we are in the tashahhud, giving the break to our 2 units of prayer, we say afterwards, التحيات المباركات الصلوات الطيبات, goes on, lillah. Afterwards, I feel, oh, if there was no message from the prophet that I received, through the prophetic message, I solved my problem. I am now out of the mystery. I have a meaningful life. So, and then I said, thank you for the duty mission you performed. Because of this, I am very grateful for my life now. And my life became meaningful, and I thank Allah, but the creator who employed you, but at the same time, it comes to my mind. And the prophet comes to my mind as my mother comes to my mind. There's a connection now. The prophet says, whenever you appreciate, salawat means this, appreciate my message. Salawat means, we have to understand this. Salawat means appreciate the message of the prophet. So it brings to my mind. For example, I cannot say anytime people keep saying, I don't know what they mean. Of course, everybody has something, but said, Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Why are you saying alayhi salatu wasalam? It didn't remind you anything. When you benefit from his message, you have to say, alayhi salatu wassalam, I'm very happy with your message, so that I can communicate with you now. That is what the Prophet Muhammad said. When somebody thanks me, I am present there. What does it mean? Muhammad, who's Muhammad? There are some friends here, so I'm asking, who's Muhammad? The one who brought this message. Yeah? Can I deny that when I remember his message, he is not present in my memory, in my imagination? It is human. Imagination is human power. Well, I'm created with its quality. Like, well, I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm smelling, I'm imagining, I'm reflecting, I'm thinking. All these qualities are what make me a human being. So he is present in my, if you like, mirror of memory. How can I deny that the Prophet Muhammad said, when you make salawat, it means remember my message. I am present in your mind. Right? For example, when I read a book, I get the meaning, whether I am aware of it or not, author's knowledge is in my mind present. So author's quality is here. That helps me a lot. Why? When I see the universe as being created by an absolute being, his knowledge and other qualities as well are present with me. That is what we are talking about on the third example. The example of the manifestations or reflections of spirit on another thing. So while I am, now there is a friend, but there is no need to mention the name. While I am remembering my friend here, in another time or at the same time, he can also remember me without having any physical relationship. So I am present in his mind. He is present in my mind, memory, quality. That is how I can understand this very difficult subject. What makes this subject very difficult for me also, and I understand that you may have some hardship in digesting the subject while we were reading the text. I said to my friend here that it is hard to digest. Why? There was a man who said, they said, the narrations say, he is present in many places at the same time. This many doesn't matter as long as it is more than once. Physically impossible. Yep. Can somebody be present physically in two places at the same time? And we are not talking about physical presence. We are talking about spiritual, or I mean, in the created world, we can say spirit. But we are going to use this example for God now. So we cannot say that God is spirit. We cannot describe the creator, absolute being, with any term that we use within the conditions of this universe. So we have to understand this. But this is just an example to understand how the reflection steps up and down, so that up, it means physical objects reflection, lights, the reflection of lights. Now we are studying the reflection of spirit. So how can this man be present in many places? No, he can be the prophet. For example, a famous author wrote a book, and in the physical world, you are reading your copy of the book, and I am reading my copy of the book. So you are in connection, of course, reflection-wise connection with the author at the same time I am. That is what we have to understand this. Now, physical narrations, I don't understand. And I don't have to understand in order to really have a right understanding of this subject that we are studying. This subject is very important. People cannot normally, maybe, not maybe, I was not able to grasp this kind of things at all. When I was young, that's why I was not, comfortable with the religious concepts, but questioning. I didn't deny. I don't know why. I was young. So while I am struggling in understanding this kind of concepts, I couldn't make sense of it at the beginning, but now somehow with the help of these kind of examples somehow makes sense to me. But when it comes to a physical being present at the same time in more than two places or one place, for me, it is difficult to digest. But we cannot get away with it by saying that, oh, isn't God able to do that? It is not the solution. No, because referring to God is not the solution, because I cannot observe the absolute being, what he is doing here, how he is doing. I can only see the reflections, his qualities, reflection in this world, and the examples of these reflections, and say, oh, the source of existence of the examples of this reflection must be an absolute being, period. That is called belief in God. Why? Because the creator, by definition, must be absolute, infinite in his capacity, which is impossible to imagine. But it is necessary for me to explain the nature of existence of this universe and feel comfortable. Feel comfortable. In the reflections of the qualities of this absolute being, what I accustomed with physical, and it takes place, this reflections takes place within an order, and so physical presence of a physical object in more than one place is not within the order. I cannot say that the God can create. No, it is not the explanation. I have to see the example. I have to see the manifestation types and then say, hey, that occurred here, so it is possible for God to do this. Otherwise, yes, by definition, absolute can do, but this is by definition, I have no evidence that I am not responsible for it. If someone cannot understand like me, should feel comfortable. But I understand the spiritual reflections, if you like, of the created beings in the universe. It is occurring, it is within the order. I can comfortably attribute this existence, this type of existence, to its source as to be the absolute. I know I took over all the class, today's class, but this bothered me a lot, and I couldn't find any solution. If someone demonstrates one example in the order of this universe that one physical object was present in more than one place at the same time. But I understand that the prophet was following the vision of the order, war conditions, and saying, oh, this is in Mu'tah, I think in the Mu'tah war, the commander was killed or made martyrdom, so he became martyr. And the other one, I can understand this. Why? In the physical world, there is one center of broadcasting. Everybody has its own, has the same broadcasting at the same time on its own machine. This is within the order. I can confirm it. So the prophet said, this one happened. Now, Khalid bin Walid took the leadership and he managed to get out of this troubled position. So withdrew it and came back, ran back actually, they ran back. So that is what the order requires. God doesn't guarantee that if you believe in God, definitely you will be successful in any place physically. No, but spiritually, yes. Why? I know, as I mentioned once, the companions were so sure of the existence of the hereafter, after everything destroyed and a new creation takes place. They said, if I am successful physically in a war condition, that is one victory. Yes. Now, if I am murdered, it means became a martyr. That is even greater victory than previous one. That is why this symbol in English, in Islamic, maybe it is the source of it, or later on it is developed. Victory, the beginning of the V, the word, was practiced by the companions of the Prophet. And they said this, I am not showing it, but the friends are here showing. So, you know, this soldiers show this victory, but non-Muslim people, whether they are aware or not, I don't care, V means symbolizing the word victory. For the believer, not only symbolizing the word victory at all, nothing to do with it, but if I am successful in war, it means triumphant, or I won the war, I am victorious. If I am killed, I'm still victorious. That's why the Roman emissary came to Medina, because Roman king, not the present king there, the, how do you say, Viceroy. Sorry?
Viceroy?
Why?
Viceroy?
I don't. So,
Viceroy.
Viceroys of the king in the northern Arabian Peninsula, Syria, Palestine, was bothered about the developments in Medina and sent an envoy or a person, go and see as an envoy which kind of people they are. They are growing very fast. And he came there. He went, he observed and went back, and his message was this: as far as our subject is concerned, I have to cut it short. There are two other things, three points. Is summarized. I will explain these people. First of all, there is no difference between the leader and an ordinary man. They are all sitting on the same place, living in the same living conditions. Oh, that's very dangerous for the kings, for the emperors. But even worse, they don't believe that when they are killed in the war, they die. They don't believe in death. It's unsolvable. You cannot threaten them. Nothing can threaten them. So that is why the Muslims never mentioned about death. Shahada, it means witnessing. I know I took over the whole class, but I think this subject should be clarified, and by giving several examples and making comparisons. That is why I took my time. Thank
Brother
you.
Ali, the reference you gave about the Prophet Muhammad's luminosity in the work condition is not clear to me. If you can please share that again. How you understood that about being present at the same time more than once. How were you able to reconcile that?
So what was the relation?
I see. Within the order of the universe, in the creation, one can spiritually communicate with an event, spiritually, not physically, spiritually communicate in a physical event somewhere else. Physical, what are we experiencing here? Look, there is a means of communicating. This is called, I don't know how do you say, megahertz or something. I can say it magnetic, I don't know, electronic or magnetic, do you know?
Electromagnetic waves?
Whatever it is, I don't know the technical word. It is possible, isn't it? Communicate spiritually, or it spiritually means really, for example, transfer the picture of it, transfer the voice of it. For example, transfer the qualities of the pictures, the color, the shape, and then transfer it. It is physically possible. So, or the prophet, in a miraculous way, demonstrated it, but we know that most of the miracles are what? Unknown side of the order of the universe, manifested before they are discovered. Now, it is a miracle. The subject of miracle is completely different. It's not our subject, but it means it is within the order of the universe. But people did not know. But God revealed it is possible to the prophet to demonstrate the miracle. So people needed it in order to have conviction about the claim of the prophet. So it is created for the prophet as a miracle, but we know that it is within the order of the universe, but it is not timely occurring, exceptionally, extraordinarily occurring. If somebody really understands the nature of miracles, but we shouldn't take the miracles literally. For example, Moses' staff. A wood. No, it represents the Moses' message. No, I mean, if we are careful, for example, this one is a miracle, and the effect of the Moses' message on the magicians, Pharaoh's magicians, is also physically happening. You can convince somebody, can you not? By bringing a good evidence. So he says, okay, I agree with you now. This is possible, happening in the world. I understand that it is within the order of the universe. So seeing the things, the similitude of the things, examples of the things, reflections of the appearance of the scenery, now I can see something happens in California. I can see the film of it right now. This is possible. It is within the order of the universe. That is why we should understand the prophets. If the prophet mentioned that, or if a narration is mentioned that the prophet demonstrated this kind of miracle, we have to be very careful. The Quran mentions, for example, that Noah was taught how to make ship. We know it is within the order. We can make ship now. most of the sophisticated ship than Noah's ship. Now, Solomon flew. It is within the order of the universe. We have to discover. Go and do it. Do you see what I mean? The miracles also have many purposes than happening. And this is the interesting purpose of the miracles happening. If somebody reads it, if I didn't know, for example, that while I am here, I can see what is going on, and in my reflection, not with my eye, what is going on, spiritual connection. So in California, yes, I can. It is possible. I discovered it now. But the prophet said the same thing that time. It was the miracle. Extraordinary side of it is happening before it has been discovered by human beings. That is extraordinary. I don't know whether I could answer or share my reflections with you. So you are hearing me right now. We are having the same miraculous action in creation, experiencing the same miraculous action now. You speak, I hear, I speak, you hear. You're present. It is possible, experiencing. Thank you. Sorry for sorry, Radba, please forgive me. I didn't let you go.
It's okay. Well, I think we can process what you said, stop here, and then we'll pick up next class, next discussion.
Have you finished the reflections of spirit example?
We did. I mean, the next two paragraphs are going to be more of like a conclusion.
Yeah, we can conclude them and then start with the following.
The secondary. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sounds like a good plan. Okay.
Let's finish this because we talked about it as much as our capacity allowed. I don't have anything more. If somebody has something more, please share. I would like to hear.
Okay. All right. I'll start reading, and if anything you want to share, please let me know. Thus, what thing may hide itself? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Farah.
Assalamualaikum. Yes, I'm taking some time to digest, and
yeah,
I didn't necessarily read before, so that is my excuse. So the one thing that I was thinking about was that for something to be physically in two places at the same time, or to be observed at the same time, means that you as the observer also need to exist in two places at the same time. So thinking about this question, I was questioning myself, like, okay, how can I prove that in my own life for me to exist in two places at the same time? And yes, you struggle with coming up with any reasonable argument for even questioning it to yourself, like how can that even be possible to experience two of you at the same time in two different places physically? But so that was one thing I'm going to spend more time thinking about. But the other thing that was coming to my mind is that as we're moving through the first, second, and now the third, we're also, if it's not incorrect for me to map this on to also levels of experiencing or realizing the reflection of the qualities of the absolute being in existence. So if I take the book example and try to fit it here. Like, the first is just seeing the book as a physical object. Second is seeing the words or the text on the page, which represents both the physical manifestation in the letters, but also its meaning. And then the third is its pure meanings. And we can imagine something in pure meaning, such as the memories of individuals, as we were talking about, to not be restricted by any time or space. But all other aspects of, let's say, experiencing a book, such as physically its object, they get limited to how we can experience them. And it was the other thing that I'm trying to understand is this idea that, for example, I cannot observe myself in two places at the same time, but I do observe myself, let's say, in other scenarios, one by pure power of imagination. Let's say you close your eyes and you imagine yourself. I think a dream is another type of imagination, but something that you're not necessarily purely doing. So there are ways to, let's say, talk about manifestations in terms of meaning that allow you to see things happening at the same time in different times, in different spaces. The point where I'm want to spend more time thinking for myself again is, it seems that the more an object or a person is reflecting purely the qualities of its source, the more it becomes, let's say, unrestricted by its physical body or its physical container. And so in the example of the prophet and of the substitutes, which are, I guess, people who are trying their best to follow the example of the prophet, they're also trying to be the best reflectors of the qualities of this of the absolute being, such that their light, or as in their what they represent, is seen in places beyond their physical being itself. So just general thoughts. I'm going to spend more time thinking about this, but I hope it was it helped connect some things, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Farah. All right. All right. Let me start from here. Thus, what thing may hide itself from address of oneness, which is within the manifestation of the attributes and acts of the most pure and holy one through his universal will, absolute power, and all-encompassing knowledge. The most holy one, who is far beyond and exalted above matter, free and exempt from any restriction or limitation, and the darkness of density of the sacred lights, of whose names all these lights and numinous beings are but dense shadows, and of whose beauty all existence and all life and the world of spirits and the world of similitudes are semi-transparent mirrors, whose attributes are all-encompassing and whose qualities universal. What matter could be difficult for him? What thing can be concealed from him? What individual can be distant from him? What person can draw close to him without acquiring universality? Although by means of its unrestricted light and immaterial reflection, the sun is closer to you than the pupil of your eye. Since you are restricted, you are truly distant from it. In order to draw close to it, you have to transcend numerous restrictions and pass over many universal degrees. Simply, in effect, you have to expand to the size of the earth and rise as far as the moon. Then you may be able to approach directly to a degree the sun's essential level and meet with it without veil. In just the same way, the glorious one of beauty and beauteous one of perfection is infinitely close to you, and you're infinitely distant from him. If your heart has strength and your mind eminence, try to put the points in comparison into practice. Go ahead, Brother Ali.
Very briefly, when the text says, this being who is the source of existence of this universe, beyond everything, this is our definition. That's what we have to remember. The source of existence of this universe is the result of our reasoning capacity, we conclude must be absolute. So the text is if speaking from God's perspective, but we have to take it from our perspective. If I concluded that rationally, the source of existence of this universe must be absolute, so absolute cannot be likened to anything. So I cannot really relate any action as exactly the same in nature of this absolute being. I can only say, this is what I can hear, experience it here, but my conclusion says, I am not the same exactly, because I'm absolute. I cannot imagine absolute. That's what I have to understand and accordingly read the text. Wassalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much. All right. I feel like today there's a lot to think about. So I hope we think about it, and whatever, if you feel like you still have questions or reflections you'd like to share next time, please do so. And I'll end it here. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا